Many thanks for staying tuned. It's still the conversation here on Lagos Television. Of course, our focus today is on food security, where state governors have been tasked to again embrace mechanized farming. This was particularly mentioned by President Bola Tinubu during his October 1st address to Nigerians. And of course, we'd like to elaborate on that today and take a look at how state governments can also be part of this process at ensuring that there's food sufficiency and their citizens will not go hungry. And joining the conversation today is a great consultant to the Ogun State Governor, Wale Oyikoya. Thank you for being here on the program today.
Nice for having me. Good morning.
Right. Let's start from the president's speech, his Independence Day broadcast, where he categorically asked that state governments should join the federal government in embracing mechanized farming. And I know that this is one thing that you've also always talked about. A couple of times you've been on this platform. Would you say that now that this is coming from Mr. President, will this show any seriousness on the part of the state governors, or what do you make of that call by Mr. President?
I think the president have already spoken loud and clear. I feel that he knows what people are really going through in terms of food.
Okay.
And without food, none of us will be here this morning. I don't care if you're a medical doctor, you're a computerist, or anything. Food is very important. It's very essential. For president to have really come up that mechanization is the only way out. Because what we keep on deceiving ourselves is our populations. When was the last time we have census? When was the last time we even know how many people do we have in this country? With my own estimation, I could say we're over 300 million, because we keep on deceiving ourselves that our population is still under 200 million. So the budget for the federal government or the state government is still based on that inadequate population that is being spread all over the places. But now the president has spoken. Even some countries that are not even more than Lagos State, they are practicing mechanizations. Because nowadays, which youth are you going to tell me to go to the farm with cutlass and hoe? Without all these modern tools. It doesn't have to be gigantic equipment. It could be something small equipment like the weeders, tiller, harvesters. That doesn't take much.
Okay.
I believe the president should go further.
Right.
We have all these school of technologists, like Firos, Yabatech, all these technology, IITA. You should develop them. We can manufacture some of these little equipment that leads to the modernization in this country.
Okay.
But the encouragement has to be there, the awareness has to be there, the technology has to be there, so we don't have to go far. But we can just learn from India, China, and other kind of those countries that practice mechanization. Even in America, yes, the president, through the federal government, they said they are going to be manufacturing about 2,000 John Deere's tractors every year. It's a good way to go, but it has to be monitored, because the implementation is always the problem we have in this country. So that some of these tractors will not end up in the home of people that does not even have a single acres of land.
Right. Mr. Oyikoya, a fantastic idea you raised here this morning, and we can start small. And I mean, we do not need to necessarily begin big from the John Deere tractors, like you said, weeders and a couple of other smaller equipment. But aside equipment and infrastructure, what has been the major challenge? Why mechanized farming has not been that attractive? Because again, some of this small equipment are not cheap to come by. Is that really a factor? Would you say that it is about affordability or the political will from the state governors to invest in those equipment?
I'm here to be corrected that most of the state governments we have, they are not really spending too much on agriculture, just few states. In the north, yes, I could say they are trying, but they are not even trying enough. It's when the crisis arises, that's where you see everybody running up and down. Because this food crisis we've been talking about it for over 10 years.
Right.
What has been done? In the Maputo agreement that Nigeria is a signatory, they said 10% of our budget should be going to agriculture.
Every year?
Every year. The closest we ever see was during the Obasanjo's regime, which was like 2.5%. So how are we going to feed our people when the budget does not sustain what you are talking about, you keep on preaching mechanization.
And it needs funding.
It needs funding. You need technology. You need to. We have so many of these youth that can design some of this equipment for that. We don't even have to go far to the China. But what they encourage is the environment conducive for them to do it. These are what the government need to look into. Not only that, when you talk of mechanization, seed is very important. It's what you put on the ground that is going to grow.
Right.
God bless us in this country that we have all this arable land just lying down there. If you travel from here to Ondo, to Ekiti, to everywhere, you see all this fertile land. But the seed that we are using today are not being produced by Nigerians.
Most of them are imported.
They're imported. And some of them does not even go well with our own soil or our climate. We have different climates. China, India, Israel, or America, they have different.
Even on the African continents, our climates are
different. So we have to be able to produce what can grow in our own land. That is why the research, and I keep on talking about research and development. Without research and development, we keep on dancing around and around. You have to fund the research and development. It's been done all over the world. But in Nigeria, how many research and development do we have? Go to IIT, it's a story of so. Go to FIRO, go to everywhere. In fact, FIRO is the most disappointing one. It's a federal government institutions.
Right.
All this equipment we are talking about, they should be able to roll it out. But when you go there, they are not funded. So I want the federal government, through their initiatives, they are listening to us. There's no doubt about it. We have a listening president now. Okay. And I pity the man, because he cannot do it alone. I pity him.
He has said he should not be. He doesn't want to.
He needs to be pitied. Because at the end of the day, they are still going to blame him. You understand? So I think he should bring all the state governors together there. Listen. Yes, technology is good, property is good, but without food, it's a problem. That's why we have all the crises that we are having today. And we should not be depending only in the north to feed us in the southwest.
Right. The south also
yes,
to do
we should be able to do more. We have lands in abundance in Ogun State, Oyo State, Ekiti State, Ondo State, Osun State. What are we doing with it?
Is this where collaboration will also come in?
Where there was a collaboration when all the governors in the Southwest met in Lagos the other time, and I learned that they lock up all their commissioner for agriculture to go and come out with ways to collaborate with each other. I don't think they are doing it better. I believe they are doing it under. But the implementation of whatever they are able to say that, but people are hungry. Everybody can see that. If you take 10,000 to the market today, it doesn't buy anything. How much is the minimum wage we are talking about? Even if you increase the minimum wage to 150,000, you still cannot even do it.
Right. So again, before we move away from equipment and infrastructure, a lot of people also think that if there's no good infrastructure, agriculture is also going to suffer, because if you go into the farms, there are no motorable roads, there are no storage facilities, because that is also a major problem that we do have here in Nigeria, where we cannot boast of good storage facilities. How much of that do we also need to begin to divert attention on?
Yes, you are right. Post-harvest loss is always the problem of farmers. The problem is not about producing. Post-harvest, after harvesting, how do we get to the city? How do we transport it? Because most roads to the rural area are nothing to run home.
Right.
So to me, my advice I will give further to the Mr. President, we used to have all these farm settlements. Let's start from there.
Insecurity.
Insecurity, you can provide security in that environment. You give them light, you give them security, you give them water. It's like a community. It's like you design the whole place of this Ikeja. There's going to be a farm zone, farm settlement. From there, you're going to have industrial cottage in it. You're going to have value chain. People will be producing. You can even rear some of these animals.
Okay.
They go hand in hand. We should not be relying too much that everything should be coming from the north. That is why we got it wrong. I remember, and I still keep on saying, during the fascist regime, when most of these northerners, when they strike, that they refuse to bring food. They're not bringing food. See how all our so-called elite are buying grounded pepper.
Yes, as substitutes.
As substitute. Why do we have to wait to that? Why do we have to wait for crisis? Then you keep on talking about security. Security is very important. And individuals cannot provide security. This is where the federal government really need to come in. Because most farmers in the rural areas now, they're already abandoned, especially in the northeast and the northwest, because of lack of insecurity from the bandits, from Boko Haram, from all kind of stuff. But I believe the federal governments are trying to curb some of this banditry. But they have to do more if you really want the farmers to go back to the farm.
All right, so one of the things that I also came across while preparing for this is training and capacity building. A lot of people will think, oh, farmers, do they need training? Are there skills really in the business of farming?
They are supposed to be, but unfortunately, most of the school of agriculture, if you go there, there's nothing to write home. And in fact, in my own farm, sometimes when you say you hire some of these farm managers, you still have to manage them.
Oh, wow.
You still have to teach them. They don't even know. What they teach them is nothing but theories. Practical is not there, it's zero. And that is why I suggested that we should go back to the basics. Let's bring agriculture back to the primary school, secondary school. Let them learn. Let's catch them young.
From that age.
That way they'll be able to say, oh, wow, I planted beans. See how it's germinated. They call their mom. Oh, mommy, this thing is coming up. They plant maize. Mommy, this thing is coming. It will take them to schools. From secondary school, they will go to the university. But if you go to most of the schools today, everything is concrete. There's
no farm.
No farm.
Right.
And you expect to get food from the market. Where are you going to get the food? When I went to China, I keep on saying it that I learn a whole lot when I go there. They don't have land.
Yeah, but you talked about the sustaining,
yes, having all these,
greenhouse.
Yes, flower pots where they can plant this thing on top of their balconies. Because what plants need is nothing but water and sunlight. So with this, then community farming, I keep on saying that family farming, because if you're able to do something in your own backyard, I'm able to do something in my backyard, you cannot consume everything. What do? You take it to the market. And it's going to come at a cheaper rate. If you don't sell it, it's going to get spoiled. And who lose? You are the loser. And at the same time, we should be able, the government need to do a whole lot to assist farmers. Like today, most of the poultry farmers are dead. Yes. Because of the feed that they fed. It's extremely expensive.
Because we're not producing it.
We are not producing it. Even ordinary maize, now we are importing it. Soya beans, we are importing it. When do we have to stop importing some of these things that we can grow in our own life? Why can't we grow what we eat and eat what we grow?
So can we also, again, I remember, well, it still happens, but then not as the yields would have been, where we would have Sunday markets, where you have people coming from the hinterland. Usually you have people coming from Ijebu to Lagos over the weekend, and they bring things like gari, bring things like yam, bring things like vegetable. But again, they're not as cheap as they used to be. And so what are some of the issues that they are also facing? I know you've talked about cost of transportation is there, the kind of challenges that they also go through as small-time farmers. But is this sustainable? Is this something that we can continue to look forward to? Because again, some of this produce are fresh, and you'd want to, you know, spend your last couple to get fresh produce. So are these sustainable for these farmers?
It's not sustainable. As I said, storage facilities is very important. Some of them just produce, it's just like vegetable. Once you cut it in the morning, another 2-3 hours.
It will wither.
It will wither. So if there's a storage facility, if you go to some of these countries, we copy. Anytime, 24 hours a day, if you go to their supermarket, their vegetable fruit is always very fresh. How do they do it? It's nothing but storage facilities. Because if there's no storage facilities, that's why we always have all these total loss, which is what we call post-harvest loss, because we are not storing. Then at the same time, there's something we call warehouse ticketing.
Okay.
This is a way of farmers which the banks have to design, that if there's a warehouse, you produce, you take it to that warehouse. Somebody is there to pay you. You go back to your farm. Okay. Then
off-take it from you.
Off-takers.
Right.
Then the bank will use that warehouse ticketing as a collateral, because they know that you're going to sell it. So they will monitor it that, yes, our money is here, they'll be able to monitor. But not that, like now that if you go to the commercial banks, the interest rate is killing, between 27 to 30%, unless you are dealing with drugs in your farm.
That's why you can afford that.
You can afford that. So this is why the federal government really need to look into Bank of Agriculture, which is supposed to be Bank of the Farmers is dead. It's not funded. Bank of Industries, they have their own target.
And they will not look at small farmers.
They will not look at the small farmer, and they will not even give you money to produce, but to process. So it's two different things.
Right.
So they need to fund the Bank of Agriculture so that all these small farmers can go there. What do they need? Maybe like 50,000, 100,000 to go and buy seed. Then at the same time, I believe the government should provide seed for farmers.
Okay. I mean, there was a time that the federal government was talking about providing grains for farmers to sell, to grow. I don't know how far that has gone. You will talk about that. But very quickly, I wanted you to also speak to the issue of financing. If states are now being taxed to go into mechanized farming, can you also begin to look into issues concerning financing and maybe set up low-interest loan programs specifically for purchasing agricultural machinery? It could be seeds, it could be some of those equipment that you've talked about, but this time the state governors are in charge of this, probably through the Ministry of Agriculture. I know that there was a time in Lagos that the Commissioner, Abisolo Lusonya, also was going around to ensure that as low as 50,000 naira was given to small-time farmers. But is this something that we can sustain and from time to time monitor these farmers and ensure that there is a feedback mechanism to monitor what it is they are doing with those funds?
As I keep on saying, the agri process in this country cannot move forward without the inputs of the state governors.
Right.
Number one, they have the rights of the land. The 1978 Land Use Act gave them the power, more than the federal government. Are they releasing the money to farm, to farmers, to produce? We have to look into that.
Okay.
If the state governors can be having security votes, I believe there should be some portion of it to go into agriculture for peasant farmers.
Okay.
Everybody.
Do we even still have peasant farmers? I know that's one thing we learned in agric in secondary school. You talk about peasant farmers. I'm sure nobody wants to be called a peasant farmer right now because you assume that you're a poor person.
But the reality needs to be told.
Right.
That if you go to most of these villages, people still use their cutlasses and hoe. So to me, they say peasant farmer. And I keep on telling people that people, some people, they say they have about 1 acre, 2 acres of land to plant maize. I call them gardeners, not farmers. because agriculture is not about volumes. It's the more you're able to produce,
the yields.
The yield will come. It's not like all this oil and gas. You see all these trailers all over. If you're able to carry 10 trailers of petrol or diesel today, you calculate your margin because the profit margin is not too much. The same thing with agriculture.
Right.
The profit margin of agriculture is plus or minus 10%. There's not much gain on it. So this is where the state governor really could to come in and empower all the Ministry of Agriculture through the Ministry of Agriculture and their commissioners.
Right.
Because if the ministry is there, the idea is there, and there's no money to implement it, we are going to be back to square one. Implementation is the key. The policy is there, is beautiful, is robust. But how is it being implemented?
Right. So state governors, again, as much as there's so much responsibility on the state governors, especially through this mechanized farming, is this something they also can do all by themselves, or this is where they also need to tap into the private sector participation?
Definitely, I think the private sector will be the one to drive it, because if you go to any state governor, they say they don't have money. Especially with the situation in the country now where the salary is copying most of the allocation that they are getting.
Right.
So, and the IGR is not that much because most businesses are folding up. Let the reality be told. So I believe the state governors should involve the private sectors. Like in Ogun State that I come from, I could see that the governor always engage some of these private sectors to come and develop agriculture.
Okay.
That Pabiodo is doing that I know. Before I joined, I was thinking that what are these state governors doing?
But now you're inside.
When I'm inside, I saw what they're able to do. But as I keep on saying, our population keep on deceiving us.
Right.
Like in Ogun State, with our population, we might be thinking that we're still under 2 million or 5 million, but we should be able to provide for more than 10 times of that. The same thing in Lagos.
Right.
If you ask average Lagosian, they say that the population in Lagos is about 15 to 20 million. And if I'm going to tell you, it's over 30 million. So don't let us have our population be
So we should actually plan ahead, even if the population is not as much as that. But there's to be on the safe side, it's best to plan ahead rather than shortchange your population.
But I still believe that the state governors, through the community farming and the farm settlement. If you remember in the olden days during the Awolowo's regime, most of the Southwest is flooded with all these farm settlements. And anything you want, you go to those farm settlements, you'll be able to find people will be able to employ, they'll be able to produce. In fact, it's like a life on its own in that community.
Okay, so so the farm settlement you're talking about, perhaps it's just nomenclature. Are they also going to be the same as some who said there's a need to create agribusiness hubs?
Exactly.
Will they also be the same where those communities will serve as, they will generate their own market and also ensure that they export some of those things to the urban areas? I know at the beginning of this conversation, you did say that there's really no young person who wants to go into agriculture, perhaps because it's not that lucrative. But can we really move forward, especially now that we're talking about mechanized farming, without involving young people?
That's not what you're going to do, because if you look at the population of Nigeria, 60 to 65% of them are youths. And if you look at the age bracket of people in the farming now, they are between 50 to 70 years. How much can they do? So that's why I said that the youth, the young people need to be encouraged. And how do you catch them young? It's from the secondary, from the primary school.
Okay.
Even from the nursery school, because they can have a small pot in their classroom.
And they're tending to that.
They're tending to that. They will start getting fascinated with it. And by the time they get to the secondary school, they'll be graduating. By the time they get to university, they will be able to have their, in fact, they'll be telling their family that that's your family land that is there, I'm going to use for farming. That is encouragement.
Right.
But don't just say that, oh, we are going mechanizing and you are bringing all this equipment from abroad. And what about the maintenance of all these equipments? Because if you don't train your people here to be able to manage those tractors, the people that sold the tractor to us will not be coming here to maintain it for us. So you have to train our people how to maintain some of this equipment before you get money back.
But how can young people get more attracted into farming? Because again, a lot of people want to do things that will bring fast money, in quote, and nobody wants to sweat it out, you know, trying to. But again, agriculture has gone beyond that. If technology and, of course, new ideas are also tailored in that environment. And so what are some of those things that you would advise state governors or state government to bring to bear so that young people can be attracted to farming?
See, agriculture is very broad. Some people will have to plant, some people will have to harvest, some people will have to market, some people will have to export.
Okay, so you have to actually choose.
You have to choose which one.
Okay.
And I just talked about commodity trading also. It's part of agriculture where you make a lot of money through the commodity trading. Commodity trading is when you are, like during the time of harvest, you can store some of this into the storage. Then there are some people, like in New York Stock Exchange, this is what they make out of the commodity. Commodity trading is a lot of business for the youth. They can use their social media through their printer
to market.
To market it. So they don't have to go to the farm to go and farm. Leave the farming to some people because the nitty-gritty of farming, some of this youth cannot take it unless we go mechanization.
Right. So again, I'll take you back to what we mentioned earlier in passing, where I talked about collaboration. We've also heard that the new currency now is collaboration. And so what would be your take with, or how fast or how soon would you wish that, let's start from Southwest, because that's our catchment area here. If we are hungry in the Southwest, we would first take care of our own issues. So how soon would you want the state governors and their agri-commissioners to speed up this collaboration and come up with something sustainable? I know that there was a time where there was that partnership between Lagos and Kebbi in rice production. Something is in the offing at the moment with Lagos State and one other northern state. And so collaboration, we don't have the land, you have the capacity. You don't have the manpower, you have the land. And so let's start from the Southwest. How soon would you want the governors to come up with something sustainable that can also outlive their administrations?
It had to be as soon as possible because people are hungry. You have to go out there and see how people are hungry. A bag of rice now, that's why the fact that the federal government that you should be selling for 40,000. How many of us in this room are able to buy it?
I still bought half bag last week, and it was almost 55,000.
55,000. Is it part of the federal government?
No, it's not though. That one is not in Lagos yet.
Okay.
We don't even know where they will be sold in
Okay,
Lagos.
for you to have bought it for 55,000.
A half bag, 25 kg.
Okay.
Not even 50 kg.
Not even 50 kg.
Yes.
So you can imagine.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So definitely the Lagos State government, which happen to be the state of excellency, which having the largest population, which happen to be the capital of economy of this nation, have to be able to think fast beyond what they have on the table, how to feed all these people. Because if people are really hungry, that is why you see violence all over. That's why you see them doing what they are not supposed to do.
Right.
So the state governor right now is doing his best, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, with due respect, is trying his best.
Okay.
But he cannot do everything. And that is why you have all these commissioners. And I believe Ms. Abisola is doing her best also. But there should be a lot of collaboration within other states.
Okay.
As I always said, the Lagos State government does not have the land, but they have land for processing, for value chains, for cottage industries. So let others be producing food, especially in the Southwest.
And
there should be
Lagos
a
will be
great
the
of collaboration with all the Southwest governors. They have the land, just lying down there. You know, I always tell them that most of these social intervention funds of over 500 billion, they are just giving out 50,000. How many of us in this room were able to get 50,000? But why can't you channel that money into buying this little modern equipment we are talking about and give it to the local government? There should be a bulldozer that if you have a virgin land, it should be bulldozed.
Okay.
Then there should be a tractor that is going to plow it and plant and harvest and apply fertilizers. Spread it to all over the local government. You will see improvement. Give them seed. They will not eat the seed. What will they do with it? They will plant it. And once you plant, definitely there will be a yield. All the civil servants, now that they cut their working days to about 3 or 5 in some states, the remaining days and weekend, what do they do?
What are you using them for?
Make use of the time. Give them seed, give them fertilizer, that go back to your backyard, and there should be a monitoring from the Minister of Agriculture that they should leave the office of Minister of Agriculture open. They should leave it open that if you need seed, but you must be able to tell us what you are able to do with the seed. And they should put it there not for sale. Because now people, once they see free.
Even when they say not for sale, you still see some people selling.
But if they sell it, some people are still going to use to plant.
Yes.
They will not eat it. You understand what I'm saying? Because there's a chemical embedded on it that even if you eat it, you're killing yourself.
You're killing yourself.
So whoever they sold it to are still going to make use of it to plant. And by the time they plant, and they take up their nucleus family, the rest will be able to go to the market.
Can the federal government hands off agriculture totally, even though they're asking the states to embrace mechanized farming and do a whole lot when it comes to food sustainability? But the federal government as a regulator, especially in formulating national policies, can they hands off totally? The federal Minister for Agriculture hasn't been that been that active like we would have. I think the very last active minister was Akinwumi Adesina. And so, but then we haven't heard much, except of course the sale of the rice from the federal minister. And so, what's your take this morning with the federal Minister of Agriculture?
First of all, the federal government has no business doing agricultural business.
Okay.
Yes, I was in Abuja to even see this minister you are talking about. It's like he doesn't even know what he's doing. He doesn't even know where he is. Because with all the crisis of food we are having today, I was expecting to be up and down to go to summon all the state commissioners of agriculture. That this is what we are going to. What are you doing? You have the land. Yes, where is the roadmap? I've not seen it. I saw it when I wasn't really encouraged.
Okay.
When I tried to talk to him one-on-one when to come to agriculture. But we already made the mistake. If the man is there, we have to manage him. The same way the government is managing us and we are managing the government.
Okay, so it's a 50-50.
It's a 50-50. Let us manage ourselves. But in the process of management, there should be some sense coming out to encourage people that we should do this. Yes, the federal government should be hands-off completely. All what they have to do is to give us an enabling environment. And what are the enabling environment we are talking about? Security, good road, funding, which is not too much.
Okay.
If you can be able to do that, you see that we are going to have a whole lot of abundant food that we have to be importing. If you remember in the olden days, 10 products that used to be the exporter, the largest exporter of it, right from cocoa, groundnut, rubber, sesame seed, cotton. We used to be the leading, but now we're in the backyard. Look at Indonesia. They came to Nigeria to take our oil palm to plant. If you go to Indonesia today, most of the working caps you see, they plant all this oil palm.
On the road?
On the road. It shows that the country is serious about agriculture. When you wanted to know if a nation is serious about agriculture, is to see their highway, the expressway.
What is
that these people are really serious about agriculture. If you come to Nigeria, what you see is nothing but religious houses, which is not feeding us. They are not adding nothing to the economy, so we should be able to review it and see that land has to go back to the people to be able to farm.
All right. As we wrap up this conversation this morning, we also have a penchant as Nigerians. We have a penchant for imported products, and imported food is also part of what we do. Is that also why we are where we are when it comes to food sustainability? Definitely,
we're a consumable nation. We are not a productive nation. If you see 80% of the food we eat today, right, from rice, beans, everything, 80% are being imported. It's supposed to be reversed. Maybe 20% imported and 80% local content. So this is what I'm expecting the federal government to look into. But now that they open the border again for people to import food, it's going to affect our production again.
Right.
But let's see how it play out, because it's going to make people to be more relaxed and lazy, and it's going to affect the little one that we're even producing, that the prices will not be able to compete with the imported goods.
Right.
But as I said, the federal government, through the president, have a lot to do to feed people with the little money that is in circulations.
All right, I would have to leave this conversation here this morning. Thank you again, Wale Oyekoya, Agri-Consultant, Ogun State Governor, for finding time to be here today.
Thank you.
All right, that's the much we'll take on this conversation today. We've been speaking on the fact that state governors have been tasked to embrace mechanized farming. It is a process, and of course, the state governors must show all concerted efforts at going into this, embracing it fully, and ensuring that their citizens are not hungry. We'll take a quick break. The conversation returns shortly.